Hello, my name is IsaiahNapier, and my capstone project is focused on the James Cole Outdoor Education Center in Stockwell, Indiana. This site is an important outdoor learning landscape connected to James Cole Elementary School. It includes a northern wetland, a central pond, existing boardwalks, stone paths, an amphitheater, a shelter, a memorial garden, and a bioswale. The main issue I focused on is that the site is not performing as well as it could hydrologically or maintenance-wise, and also has some beautification opportunities. Water moves through the site from surrounding agricultural land, but sediment accumulation, restricted flow paths, and unclear maintenance edges have reduced the effectiveness of the wetland and pond system. So the project shifted from general site improvements into a more focused design strategy, reconnecting hydrologic movement, managing sediment before it spreads throughout the wetland, improving native planting areas, and making the site easier to maintain over time. This project is organized around three major goals. The first goal is to improve hydrologic function and water quality. This means helping the wetland to pond system better manage agricultural runoff, reduce sediment accumulation, and support more consistent water movement through the site. The second goal is to enhance site aesthetics through native planting. Because this is an educational landscape, the plantings need to do more than just look good. They should support ecology, create seasonal interest, and help teach students and visitors about native plant communities. The third goal is to improve maintenance efficiency and durability. A major part of the project is making the site more intuitive to care for, whether that is through clear mow and no-mow zones, more durable structures, planting strategies that reduce scattered maintenance. And together these goals frame the project as both an ecological improvement and as a practical maintenance plan. A major part of this project came from stakeholder conversations, especially with Chris Ziller from Keep Stockwell Beautiful, along with discussions with Louis Vaughn and input from the Keep Stockwell Beautiful board. The stakeholders value the site, but they also identified that it is not reaching its full potential. The pond levels appear to be lower than expected, sediment accumulation is a concern, and the wetland is not moving water as effectively as intended. My research question asks how the existing hydrologic patterns, soil conditions, and site features contribute to reduced pond levels, sediment accumulation, and long-term maintenance issues, and then how design interventions can improve usability, beautification, and intuitive maintenance. This is important because the site is not just one isolated feature. The wetland, pond, bioswale, paths, planting, and maintenance patterns all work as one connected system, so the design response also needs to be system-based rather than solving one small issue in isolation. Through evaluation and analysis of the site, it was found that the site includes fine-textured soils including silty clay loam conditions, which can limit infiltration and increase surface runoff. This matters because runoff from surrounding agricultural fields is bringing in sediment and pollutants into the wetland system. The analysis also identified that the wetland has limited and inconsistent slopes toward the pond in a lot of the areas, as well as the path dividing the site acts as a low berm, interrupting the intended flow direction at the hydrologic transition towards the pond. So the key evaluation findings is that the problem is not simply that the water is present or absent, it is that the water sediment topography and maintenance patterns are interacting in ways that reduce performance of the site. The analysis directly shaped the design focus, improve conveyance, manage sediment earlier, and make maintenance more defined. From the stakeholder input, three main themes became especially important as we moved into the project direction. First, pond level and wetland function. Stakeholders noticed that the pond seems lower than expected and were concerned about that upstream sediment and restricted flow may be reducing the system's effectiveness. Second, targeted beautification. There's a strong interest in improving planting at the memorial garden and the bioswale, but these plantings still need to be practical and maintainable. And third, maintenance practicality. The site has issues with accidental mowing, unclear planting edges, erosion around hydrologic features, and failing structural elements. Because of this, the project direction became focused on hydrologic reconnection and protection of the wetland to pond system, strategic native planting, structural replacement, and design choices that reduce long-term maintenance burdens. This precedent board shows some of the design language and technical strategies that informed the project. The forebay and silt basin precedents show how sediment can be concentrated in defined accessible areas before it spreads through the entire wetland. This is important because sediment will continue to enter the site regardless, so the design needs to make it clear, clean out, realistic. The boardwalk precedent shows how pedestrian access can be preserved while allowing water to pass underneath, instead of letting the path act like a berm. The ground screw precedent supports a lower disturbance and more cost-effective foundation approach for the boardwalk construction. The block massing precedent is important for planting. Rather than scattered plants individually, native species are organized into larger swaths. This creates stronger visual structure, simplifies volunteer installation, makes maintenance clear, and creates better opportunities for educational labeling and interpretation. The timber retaining wall precedent relates to the amphitheater, where the existing railroad tie wall is failing and needs more durable replacement. This slide introduces the planting design for the two key areas of the memorial garden and the bioswale. For the memorial garden, the planting strategy uses block masses of native perennials, grasses, and shrubs to create a more intentional and visually cohesive space. The goal is to make the garden feel cared for and purposeful while still being realistic for volunteer installation and maintenance. For the bioswale, the planting strategy becomes more functional and educational. Species are selected and arranged based on moisture, shade, and their ability to support filtration and erosion reduction within the swale system. In both cases, the use of block planting and swaths help the design become easier to understand. It creates clear zones for maintenance, helps prevent accidental mowing, and creates opportunity for plant identification, educational signage, and student learning. Now talking about the primary landscape intervention, which focuses on the wetland system. The main design idea is to restore hydrologic function by removing accumulated silt and clay buildup, restoring the wetland pool structure, and re-establishing a more continuous flow path from the wetland towards the pond. A key part of this is installing a four-bay system at the northern and eastern inflow points. Instead of allowing agricultural runoff to carry sediment and pollutants through the wetland, the four-bay concentrates and filters the water and sediment in controlled collection areas. This makes the sediment easier to monitor and remove, while helping protect the smaller wetland pools from continued infill and erosion. This slide also introduced the two possible approaches for the path condition at the southern end of the wetland, a boardwalk replacement option and a culvert retrofit option. Zooming in further on the forebay and silt basin system, the idea is that runoff enters at controlled inflow points. The primary forebay captures the coarser sediment first, and then shallow swales, and secondary pools help slow and direct water movement through the wetland as it gets filtered. This is not about hardening or stabilizing the edges of the wetland or pond. Instead, it's about stabilizing the function of the wetland pools themselves, protecting them from sediment reaccumulation, reducing erosion at transition points, and keeping the system easier to maintain, while also cleaning the water. The forebay becomes a sacrificial maintenance zone. It accepts the sediment load first, so the broader wetland does not have to absorb all of the impact. In option A, the boardwalk replacement strategy. We know that the existing path creates a berming condition that restricts surface flow through the wetland. In this option, the path is removed and replaced with an elevated boardwalk. The benefit is that the water can move beneath the boardwalk freely, while pedestrian access is still maintained. This is the stronger long-term hydrologic solution because it removes obstruction rather than simply working around it. The boardwalk also fits the existing character of the site because boardwalks are already present within the wetland, part of the Outdoor Education Center. With ground screws as a lower disturbance and a more cost-effective foundation approach, the design can reduce labor and disturbance while still providing durable access through the wetland. Moving to option B, which is the culvert option. This option keeps the existing path alignment, but adds additional culverts at key low points to improve water movement through the controlled openings. This is a more phased or lower impact approach. It does not solve the berming condition as completely as the boardwalk option, but improves conveyance while preserving the current path structure. This option may be better suited for cost, construction timing, and as site access as compared to the boardwalk. So the two options represent different implementation levels. The boardwalk is the stronger long-term strategy, while the culvert retrofit is a more incremental approach that still improves wetland to pond connectivity. This slide focuses specifically on the memorial garden planting. The memorial garden is treated as a more composed and intentional native planting area. The use of block planting creates stronger visual organization, so the space feels designed rather than overgrown or scattered. Shade-tolerant native species are organized by form, texture, and seasonality. This supports pollinators and improves visual quality throughout the year. The block planting also makes installation easier for volunteers because plants are grouped into clear masses instead of being placed as isolated individual specimens. This creates a strong opportunity for education because the plantings are organized in recognizable swaths. They can be labeled by species, habitat role, bloom season, or pollinator value, making the memorial garden both beautiful and instructional. This slide focuses specifically on the bioswale planting. The bioswale is treated as a functional planting system. The plantings are arranged in continuous swaths that respond to wetness, shade, and flow conditions within the swale. The goal is to improve filtration, create stability within the bioswale, and make it easier to maintain. Instead of having inconsistent vegetation, the swaths create a more legible planting pattern that can handle changing moisture conditions. This also supports education. The bioswale can become a visible example of how plants help manage water, slow runoff, filter sediment, and support habitat. So while the memorial garden is more visually and commemoratively focused, the bioswale planting is more directly tied to educating about water quality and site performance. This slide addresses the amphitheater retaining wall. The existing railroad tie wall is deteriorating and lacks the durability needed for long-term use. The proposed timber retaining wall replaces the failing structure with a more clearly detailed and maintainable system. The design includes pressure-treated timber, improving anchoring and drainage behind the wall to reduce the conditions that lead to failure. This intervention supports the third project goal, improving maintenance efficiency and site durability. It also helps clean up the amphitheater edge so that the space remains usable for the outdoor learning, gathering, and community events. The final slide summarizes the overall impact of the project and the maintenance strategy. The proposed design improves the site by reconnecting wetland flow paths, concentrating sediment in maintainable forebay areas, clarifying planting and mowing zones, and replacing failing structural elements. The maintenance outline is important because the project is not just about what gets built, it's about whether the site can continue functioning over time. Forebay should be inspected semi-annually for the first 2 years, and then annually after that. Culverts should be checked for sediment debris and vegetated blockage. Wetland pools, flow paths, and transition areas should be monitored for erosion or sediment reaccumulation. Bioswale and wetland plantings should be inspected quarterly during establishment with targeted replanting as needed. The mowing regime should clearly map mow and no-mow zones with stone edge or other physical cues to prevent accidental encroachment. Boardwalk and retaining wall should receive annual structural checks. Overall, the project creates a landscape that is more connected, hydrologically, more intentional visually, and more realistic to maintain. For school-adjacent outdoor education center, that is the main purpose, to make the site function better as an ecological system, while also making it clearer, safer, and more meaningful for the people who use it and care for it. So in summary, this project uses hydrologic reconnection, sediment management, native planting, and durable detailing to help the James Cole Outdoor Education Center better support environmental learning while reducing long-term maintenance burden. Thank you.